a franchise brand that says, hey, private equity company A and B, you two have first rights to buy out any franchisee in this state, and at the price that somebody else was going to buy them out at. So that removes other competition from being able to get in there and grow in that state. So franchisee sells for 6x EBITDA. Let's say EBITDA was 2 million. So they're selling that one location for 1.2 million. And they had the buyer ready. And then the franchisor says, yeah, we are actually going to execute this thing in our contract that says this, we can now buy it for that same multiple, that same price.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Eric Von Horn.
Hey, I'm back here at the lake and gonna do a solo episode. I posted in the Facebook group and then just on social in general about two conversations that I had with some friends of mine that they don't even know each other, and they're both dealing with private equity and as franchisees. So they're franchisees who have private equity that's interested in buying them. One's a part of more of an emerging brand that just got sold early. It was really early for it to get sold, but they got sold early. And I think because of who bought it, generated interest in other private equity or like family office type money to get involved in buying up some of these locations. So in the past, this particular brand was not doing very well. And I don't even know that it's doing very well right now. This franchisee is doing very well with it. And it just shows you many times it's the franchisee, not the brand. Not always. Sometimes it's the brand. Like people just can't make money in a brand, but a lot of times it's the franchisee. So this franchisee has a number of locations doing very well, and where a lot of the other franchisees have struggled. And I know them personally. I know franchisees in this brand that are struggling a lot and that have lost money when they were able to get out or exit. Now, this person who, so the brand got sold to private equity, or a majority of it got sold. I think the founders are still somewhat involved, but this private equity group has a good reputation in franchising. And so I think because of that, it's attracted some other buyers that are interested in getting into the brand now. So he said, hey, Eric, I had an interesting conversation. This particular group is looking at, wanted to see if I would be interested in selling. It's like, I thought I was still a few years out from selling, but I want to look at all options. And so that's what he did. He started to have some conversations with them. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, have conversations. And I told him, like, this may be the reason why they might be interested in you, because of the private equity company that bought the brand now has influence in the brand. So it's not just putting money into things, which is good. There's money that goes into it, but there's also influence that it has and a track record that it has with other brands. So buying into a brand, those brands doing better because private equity is involved. And so he started to have conversations, and he runs a very, very great organization. He's got a number of locations. They do very well, meaning they're making good money, multiple six figures in each location. And thing is, he's not very involved in it, but he's involved in some of the stupid stuff that he shouldn't be involved with. And so we started talking about it, and he's like, hey, they want me to continue they'd like me to work within the company itself. And like, well, let me rephrase that. They would like him to work in this company that they are buying multiple different franchisees out of. So they wanted him to kind of be that CEO of the company that owns multiple locations in multiple areas of this brand. And he's like, that's interesting. I think it's very interesting. I'm like, are you sure? So we started to talk about it and why he would like that and why he wouldn't. And it looked like, part of the reason is because he could have a second bite of the apple. He could have a bigger exit at some point, but it also comes with risk. And then it also comes with opportunity cost. And I think opportunity cost, that's something that a lot of people don't think about, that they probably should be thinking about more when it comes to whatever it is that they're doing. For us at Front Street, we can't take on a ton of new brands every year. So if we're going to take on a brand, we know we're going to have to say no to maybe a better opportunity. So that's why we're pretty picky when we start to actually work with brands. Opportunity cost, it's a real thing. I don't think enough people give that enough thought before they get into something. So he started to think about that. And he's like, yeah, I would actually like to get into a different industry, maybe a different brand, maybe take the things that he's learned in franchising, start his own small business and sell that to private equity at some point. So, so we started to think about that. And my point to him was, all of that's great, but also, like, what you want to do is start preparing for this company to tell you we're reducing the price, because this is just about every time the buyer will come and say, this is all great, we're ready to close, but we need to, knock down this price for all of these different reasons. They have a million different reasons, but that's what they're really good at, is saying, we need to do a price adjustment. We need to, we've looked at some things and this needs to change. Buyers typically do that, especially those that are sophisticated. And then, so I started to talk to him about that. I'm like, if you are talking about how great you are, the things that you're involved with, the aspects of the business that they want you involved with, like, then they're going to think you are the reason the company is so successful. And I know the reason that his company is so successful is because he's empowered the right people to run the company, and he oversees it like a true kind of, I don't want to say semi-absentee, but an executive owner. So I started talking to him, like, what do you do every day? And he's like, well, I do the books, I do this, I think he started talking about some of these things that are very strategic and some of these things that there's no way he should be doing. I'm like, why are you doing these things? He's like, well, because I can, because what else would I do? I'm like, well, they will, probably want to ding you for that. They're thinking you're working 40 hours a week in the business, in reality that you're not. So fast forward a few weeks, he's like, Eric, they're telling me to replace me is going to be about, $300,000. So $300,000 of expense getting added to the bottom line at an almost 6x multiple. That adds up fast in enterprise value. And he's like, I don't do all of these things. Well, I do them, but I don't do it at my hourly rate. Like, I could hire somebody less expensive to do it. Like, well, do that. Like, hire your bookkeeper, hire some of these things out. So when they try to, so let them know that this is not really you. This is the true expense for that. And this is how it's running. So he went back and was able to get a lot of those expenses not added back in because of how he started to view it and structure it. He had this big aha moment too. He's like, holy cow. I get why a company would need to add all of those expenses back in, because somebody has to do them. And if they're not on the P&L, then they're figuring the founder's doing it, or the owner's doing it, the franchisee is doing it. And so again, a lot of those expenses were able to get added back, not added into the adjusted EBITDA. So his valuation went up, meaning the amount of money that he's able to make from the sale went up. And so I just told him too, I said, it will happen. They will want to beat you up on price. Now, they haven't done that yet, but I'm like, that probably will happen. So prepare for it. Don't take your eye off the ball. And he hasn't. He's like, everything's going up into the north. He's like, we got new revenue. We got increased revenue. We've got, everything is holding or getting better. And he's removed himself from the business and didn't, put himself as the most valuable person in the company. And so valuation is naturally going to stay strong. Now, I'm sure they'll come back and try to beat him up on price, but he's not disengaged. He's actually built his business better. He's actually probably enjoying his business more today because he's taken himself out of some of that stuff than he did before. So it's good. I thought it would be interesting to see this whole thing play out. And it's still playing out right now. It's not done. I'll probably keep you guys posted on how it goes. But it hasn't played out. I don't know that they've bought out another franchisee. I think they have, or they're close to it. I want to imagine in a month or two that his transaction will close as well. But I'm so proud of him for keeping his eye on the ball, his business growing, and then just growing an understanding of how this whole thing works. So that's one thing, and he's just concerned, like, what's going to screw it up? Is a franchisor going to do something? And so we talk probably once a week, once every other week about it. And he's just a friend, I don't charge him for it. He's just a friend. He's not in the mastermind. He's just a friend of mine. So then same week, this was last week or the week before, I had another conversation with another friend who I've known for many years. I've done a lot of business with him in the past, and he's in a different brand, a different category. And I'm like, hey, are you still in acquisition mode? Are you in, divesting mode? Are you selling? Like, what are you doing? Because we always have these types of conversations. Well, he's like, I was getting close to selling, and they were wanting me to come in and gonna be CEO of this new platform company that probably, I think, was going to hold 50 to 100 locations of this particular brand. So very different buyer than the first one. I would say bigger, more sophisticated private equity company. And these guys actually went through a process. There's a partnership with them, and they went through a process. I think they had like six, maybe 8 private equity companies that they were interviewing, kind of going through a process to see who was interested in buying them. And he's like, we narrowed it down to 4, and then they narrowed it down to 1, and then they were getting down to, the final details. And of course, tried to get beat up on price. And then the deal blew up. Like, the deal completely fell apart. And I'll get into a little bit of that. But again, they wanted him to possibly run the whole thing. He's like, I don't know that I want to do that. Like, I think I just want out. And the more people that I talk to, unless you're just really in building mode, you believe in the brand, you believe in the new investor's thesis, and they have a track record of doing it, I think that's important too. If they're like new private equity going into a new category, just because they have money and they want you as CEO doesn't mean, this thing's going to work. You got to look at the headwinds, the tailwinds. You kind of have to look at a completely new opportunity. In other words, would you invest in this brand today, knowing everything that you know now? Like, and the same thing with hiring or firing people. Like, the other day we got to the point where we were talking to, and this is in one of my entities, that, and this has nothing to do with Front Street. This has something to do with other business ventures that I'm involved with. And we had to look at firing somebody. Like, is this person adding value, and are they really great at what they do? Because they're making a bunch of money. All the KPIs said things were going south, so we had to look at it, and I asked the partners that are more active in the business, like, if you were to make a decision on hiring this person today, knowing everything that you do, would you do that? And it was this a big no, I wouldn't. I know my answer. And that's a simple frame. That's a simple question to ask. And everyone that's listening to this has probably had, somebody ask them that question. That's just and if you hadn't, you should just put that in your, little book of good questions to ask yourself when you're dealing with things. But would I hire this person again? Back to the franchising. Would I buy this franchise again, knowing everything that I know? Because you know a lot now. You've worked with a person for a year or 2 years. You've been with a brand for 1, 2, 5, 10 years. Like, would you do it again? You know the actual headwinds, tailwinds, what's happening with the market, how the economy does or does not impact it, what real estate's doing, what kind of employees you need. Do you like managing those types of employees? If competition's moving in, if demographics are changing, if the category's changing, going through major shift, if technology's impacting the business, all of those things, and his thing was like, I think things are still going to go well with the brand. He's like, as a matter of fact, like, I just don't want to be, I know I could be the CEO of that company. I just don't want to do it. And so sometimes it comes down to just what you want to do. And I'm a huge believer in that. Like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so he said I was not going to do that. And he said, actually, the company that was going to buy us, and they were close, backed out. And here's the reason why. this is what most people don't. There's a lot of things in franchising people don't really understand, don't have a clue about until you're on the inside, and on the inside for 10 plus years with multiple brands and have friends that are in the same situation. Like, this hasn't been my story, but I know people that have had experienced this. He's like, they wanted to buy and grow in a certain state. And he said the franchisor basically gave first rights to buy out other franchisees to a large private equity company. And here's what that kind of means. I know another brand, a large brand that's owned by private equity that's 20 plus years old. They have private equity as franchisees that basically have first right. So in franchise agreements, you can sell to whoever you want with the franchisor approves, but they can also, most of the time, buy you out at that price, that same price that you were to sell it for, which is a challenge on many different levels. Most of the time, it doesn't impact a franchisee at all, but this is where it can impact you, whether directly or indirectly. So a private equity company that has, or a franchise brand that says, hey, private equity company A and B, you two have first rights to buy out any franchisee in this state, and at the price that somebody else was going to buy them out at. So that removes other competition from being able to get in there and grow in that state. So franchisee sells for 6x EBITDA. Let's say EBITDA was 2 million. So they're selling that one location for 1.2 million. And they had the buyer ready. And then the franchisor says, yeah, we are actually going to execute this thing in our contract that says this, we can now buy it for that same multiple, that same price. And then they have these private equity companies that are like, yeah, we're growing in this market, we want to do that. And they do that. Like, I've heard of that happening before. I've not seen it firsthand with any brand that I've been involved with, but I know that, franchisees that have had that happen. He said, well, this is the case with him. He's like, this franchise or has a partnership or has an agreement with a private equity company that is very similar to that. And he's like, the private equity company that was going to buy me out says, this is an area, this is a state that we want to grow in. We are no longer interested in buying you out because we can't do exactly what we wanted, because of this thing that they have with another private equity company. So that is the flip side of that. The outcome is, my friend is like, we're still just as happy as ever. We're still going to be making money. We're still going to, I don't know if he's going to grow or stay steady with what he has, but he's like, we're not in any hurry. Things are fine. We're making really good money. And he's like, I'm not looking for more work. I'm not looking for a job. So I know that they've been in acquisition mode. They're probably going to stay where they are for a while, and they could just ride out the cash flow. And I know so I wasn't going to share this one, but here's another.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is, if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
Another franchisee that I'm friends with, very successful. He hasn't been successful with all of his franchises, so some have been a failure, lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably about $500,000 in one brand. We were talking about it. It's like, but this other brand that he's been involved with makes multiple, let me rephrase that. He makes multiple millions a year and does hardly anything in that business, like literally hardly anything. And he's like, yeah, I'm not interested in selling. So he said, even if I could sell for a really good multiple, like, why would I? Why don't I just ride this out? He's like, this is kind of the first year that they haven't grown EBITDA. They haven't grown cash flow. It was kind of flat. But when you're making, a couple million a year of EBITDA, that's okay. He's like, I would rather just keep this and cash flow it, even if it goes down to $500,000 a year. I know I could sell it for a lot of money, but then where am I going to go find this easy money that he's making right now? Now, it wasn't always easy getting into it. There's headache, there's heartache, there are challenges, but he doesn't even live in the state where these businesses are located today. Again, making multiple millions of dollars. And he's like, I don't want to sell it because I don't want to have to go through that, because I have to go, if I sell it for 6 or 7 or 8x, I have to go find something else to replace that cash flow that is probably costing him 5 hours a week, 5 hours a week to make a couple $1,000,000. And then his other comment to me, which is, he's like, gosh, Eric, he's like, I think I got lucky. I've gotten unlucky and I've gotten lucky. And I think there's some truth to that. You don't always know how these things are going to play out. And that brand has had, wild leadership changes, ups and downs, competition move in, competition go out. Like everything that you would expect in a normal business has happened to that brand, but he's doing very well. So I think that's another important thing to remember, both as franchisees, as franchisors. Like there will be things that happen. There is going to be some luck involved, especially as a buyer of franchises. You don't know what 5 years is going to look like. Like, I used to think I was so smart buying franchises. I would talk about it, like not talk about how smart I was, but I just talk about buying franchises. And I felt I got overconfident, and I see a lot of consultants out there, a lot of buyers that are just overconfident in what they're buying or what they are sharing with other people what to buy. And I think we're coming into this stage or age, whatever you want to call it, with AI, where buyers are going to be a lot more sophisticated. They're going to be a lot more, not sophisticated, they're going to be a lot more educated. And that can turn into some type of sophistication because they are educated with the right knowledge, and they're doing the right research and due diligence, and have the right mindset going into it. But I think in general, buyers now are coming into conversations with franchisors more educated than they were in the past, and probably false educated in some ways, and probably really educated in other ways, all because of AI. And it's a double-edged sword right now, because it could be, they still don't know if what they believe to be true is actually true, whether it's about buying a business, buying a franchise, starting a business, being a business owner, certain industries, whatever, because they still don't know, but they still believe that they know more than they really do. And again, it might be true and it might not be, but they're coming in a different way than they were 3 years ago. 3 years ago, it was like wet clay. You were the one educating them, whether it's on franchising, business ownership, whatever it is. Now you've got some people that I know, like Cody Sanchez and Walker Dybel. They're educating so many people on buying a business. Cody is amazing at it. So is Walker. They have kind of two different ways that they educate people on buying your own business. There are people that talk about starting a business from scratch. And then there are people like me who really believe in the franchising model. And I absolutely believe in the franchising model because it's worked for me. And there are many different reasons why I believe in it. And even some of the people that I just mentioned, they are becoming more believers in the franchising model done correctly. So I think the point of that is buyers are becoming more they will be more sophisticated. They're definitely coming into that first conversation more educated. They are definitely getting a better view of the opportunity as they progress along the process from a buyer to 8-10 weeks later making a decision. And I think AI has helped a lot with that. I don't know if it's going to air first or next, but kind of how to build reports as a buyer, how to build reports as a franchisee to be a better franchisee and make better decisions based off of your competition and your market using AI to do that. I think it's going to be validation is going to be just equally as important, but will probably be a little bit different moving forward because buyers will have assumptions based off of a greater data set, greater level of detail into industries and into brands. And I think both of those things are really important. One of the things I don't think gets talked out there enough is doing industry research, because a lot of people will do brand research, but they don't do industry research. And I've realized that as I'm dealing with brands at Front Street that we're talking to, I love to talk to the brand and look at the brand, but I dig deep into the industry and to understand these different industries. And sometimes, and they're brands, franchise brands in some of these industries that we dig into, there's just no way we're going into it because the margins are too thin. Could the franchisor make money? Yeah. But can the franchisee make really good money? And that's, if the answer's not yes on that, they shouldn't be franchising or franchising the way that franchising is currently done. That brings me to another point. Don't know how much I want to get into this, but the conversations that I have with colleagues in franchising are, what is franchising going to look like in the future? Royalties going to go up? Are they going to go down? Value that franchisor gives franchisees, is that going to change? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be more or less? And here's the case for both. Like, if they give you more value, whatever that looks like, there's different ways to define it. And we're digging deep into this at Front Street. There's got to be value. But if they're giving you more value or different value or doing some different things, then it can justify that franchise fee. What happens if they go the other way? What happens if they give you the systems, the processes, and they're doing a lot more from an automation and tech standpoint, but less from a heavy employee standpoint? Could they lower the royalties and still deliver you a model? Like, those are the questions that good franchisors are starting to, or new franchisors, I shouldn't say good franchisors, new franchisors getting into franchising are starting to ask themselves, what does the future of franchising look? What does the future buyer look of that's buying a franchise? And it's the same thing with all these businesses, whether you're buying an existing or starting from new, like, things are changing with AI. And I'm leading, I have a group of franchising experts that are very into lead generation for franchisees, generating leads for franchise leads, like their local leads across different industries, but they're using AI, automation, voice, all kinds of agentic type stuff, and they're leading the charge on that, and they're really good at that. I have calls, and then another group, which is a similar group, they're doing the same thing for lead generation. Like, lead generation will change for franchise buyers. If you are a franchisor right now and you think things will stay the same to find franchise buyers out there, or you're a consultant that think they will always be the same, I think everyone's in for a rude awakening. And there are people today that are testing and trying and doing new things. Some will work, some won't. And it's not like, flipping a switch on, but they are trying and testing new things. And I'm in a group of founders and lead generators that talk about this stuff, and they're net givers. Like, I'm the one that coordinated this group, and they're net givers, meaning they see this big pie and they just want a small slice of this pie. And they know somebody else might do the exact same thing, and they might even be giving advice, and that person, maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody in that group that will do the exact same thing, but it's so wide open right now, they're okay. So that's what I mean by a net giver. They're not trying to hold everything. And these are people, when I have these conversations with people, they're telling me what they're doing. I'm like, this is great. Very similar to what this guy's doing or this lady's doing. Let's all get together, if you are that net giver, and talk about this stuff. And we do. And then I have another one of that are just at the franchisor level. or vendor level that do the same thing. So one is just more lead generation, franchisee, franchise buyer. Another one is franchise thought leader, franchisor that is really into AI. These are not paid masterminds. These are just groups that I put together and I coordinate it because most of the time I'm not the smartest guy in there. These people are more advanced than me most of the time, but I get to learn from them because I am putting the group together. So any one of you can do the same thing. Like literally, you don't have to be the smartest person. You have to be the person that can organize all of that. So I'll just leave it at that. Things are changing, and that's what we talk about in the franchisee mastermind, the franchisor mastermind, like using AI to become more productive and not using it too much as a crutch to replace human things that humans are supposed to do, and critical thinking. But I see so many inefficiencies with franchisors. And then we just get to talk about the things that, like, I'll learn things in these other groups, and if it's okay for me to share, I'll share it in my franchisee mastermind and the franchisor mastermind. By the way, if you're interested in those, go to franchisetribe.com, franchise tribe. And then I also have some free giveaways in there, as well as I create tools. A lot of times I'll randomly drop one in there every now and then, just to give some people some access to some things that they didn't have before. All right, time to go surfing.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.